The land they depended on for survival was no longer stable. Vegetation patterns shifted. Familiar food sources became unreliable. Water, once predictable, moved or vanished entirely. For generations, early hominids had lived within limited territories, learning every tree, every path, every safe place to rest. But now staying meant starvation. This moment marked one of the most important turning points in human history, the beginning of the first migratory journeys. These were not migrations driven by curiosity or exploration. They were acts of necessity. Early hominids did not know where they were going, only that remaining behind would lead to death. Small groups began to move beyond their known range. The decision to leave familiar ground carried enormous risk. Outside their territory, nothing was predictable. Edible plants were unfamiliar. Shelters were untested. Predators hunted along routes the hominids did not yet understand. Every step forward increased danger. Movement itself was slow and deliberate. These early hominids were not built for speed. They relied on endurance, balance, and cooperation. Groups stayed close together, instinctively forming patterns that offered protection. Adults positioned themselves along the edges. The youngest and weakest remained shielded in the center. This arrangement was not taught through words. It emerged through survival. Open terrain posed one of the greatest threats. Tall grasses reduced visibility, allowing predators to approach unseen. Rocky ground cut feet and strained muscles, not yet fully adapted for long-distance travel. Heat drained energy rapidly, and exhaustion made even the strongest vulnerable. Stopping too long was dangerous. Moving too fast was worse. The group had to find a balance, traveling far enough to reach new resources, but cautiously enough to avoid sudden death. Water crossings became unavoidable. Rivers marked both opportunity and danger. They offered drinking water and plant life, but they were also home to ambush predators that had perfected their hunting methods over millions of years. The surface might appear calm, but beneath it waited sudden violence. Approaching these rivers required careful observation. Evidence suggests that many early hominids were lost during such crossings. Those who survived learned quickly. They recognized where predators waited. They understood that noise, numbers, and coordinated movement could reduce risk. Stones thrown into water were not weapons. They were warnings, disruptions meant to confuse unseen threats. Survival depended on shared awareness. As groups moved farther from familiar ground, competition increased. Other hominid groups occupied nearby territories, guarding access to food and water. Encounters between groups were tense and unpredictable. Sometimes they passed without conflict. Other times, access to resources led to violent confrontation. In these moments, cooperation within the group became critical. Individuals who acted alone were quickly eliminated by predators or starvation. Groups that maintained unity endured longer. Over time, natural selection favored those who could read the environment, remember danger, and remain bonded under stress. Migration reshaped the species. Bodies slowly adapted for extended travel. Upright posture reduced direct exposure to the sun and allowed for more efficient cooling. Hands became increasingly important, not only for carrying food and tools, but for signaling, coordinating, and sharing. Social bonds strengthened. Caring for injured members improved group survival. Knowledge accumulated across generations, passed not through language, but through imitation and repeated behavior. Young hominids learned where to step, when to stop, and how to respond to danger simply by watching the adults around them. The journey was never continuous. Groups paused for days or weeks when food allowed. Temporary shelters were used, rock overhangs, clusters of trees, shallow caves. These resting periods were vital. Injuries healed, strength returned. Young learned survival skills through play and observation. Then movement resumed. Each new journey carried the memory of past losses. Individuals who had survived predator attacks bore scars. Those scars were warnings etched into flesh, reminders of rivers that killed and open ground that offered no mercy. Yet the groups continued forward. This persistence changed everything. Over thousands of generations, migrations selected for endurance, intelligence, and cooperation. It favored awareness over aggression, memory over instinct alone. Those who could anticipate danger survived longer than those who reacted too late. These early migrations did not lead across oceans or distant continents, but they established a critical ability, the capacity to leave familiar environments and survive elsewhere. This ability would later define humanity. Every future movement across deserts, coastlines, mountains, and frozen land can trace